Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our opening sequence didn't play tonight for some reason, so we're jumping straight in. And here we are. I could just waffle for a while people tune in. But why don't I play the opening thing in any case? Let's just see if it's working. Why didn't that work? Here we go. Right, good evening. Welcome to this evening's live stream. We have three special guests this evening. So first of all, we've got Andy Brady. Now, you'll have seen Andy on our social media and other communications. Andy is our candidate in the Hamilton, Lark Hall and Stonehouse by-election. So Andy, welcome to the live stream this evening.
Thank you for having me, Richard. Good to be here.
That rosette is suiting you very well, I have to say.
I've took quite a liking to it.
Yeah, he's competing with Neil with the outrageous shirt competition.
I think.
Yeah, which I thought would be a pretty tall order, but I think that's you're in the running with that one. So I thought I invited Andy on, a chance to have a chat with you, hear a little bit from Andy, get to know him, so to speak, a little bit. So, Andy, fire away. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, where do we start, Richard? Where do we start? Well, I've not always been in the running to be an MSP. This is quite new. Growing up, I grew up in Rutherglen in South Lanarkshire, so not far away from Hamilton. And my life growing up, grew up in a house with my mum and my dad, my two sisters, and it was relatively normal until the ages of maybe about 13. And that's when my mum and dad got divorced. And life took a bit of a turn from that time. I was involved in stuff that you shouldn't be involved in as a youth, and that's why my heart is so broken for the youth of today, because I know that they can come away from the stuff that they're doing that they don't need to be, just with love, with discipline, with education. They don't have to be living a life that they're living, but we'll get to that. But then, as I went into my 20s, searching for meaning in life. And I was a kind of qualified engineer, became a manager in engineering. Had various different life experiences, led me to a place where I knew there had to be more, and that's when I became a Christian in 2013. And since then, life has just completely changed from having no real interest in education to being firmly believing that education is a gift that has to be nurtured and is really undervalued widely. Having a real love for people, seeing the potential in people, a real love for truth. So often in this world, people are just built on opinions, built on emotions and feelings, and you try to have a truthful conversation and you just don't get anywhere. And I've realized this more and more over these past few years, but particularly probably the past years, I've seen my interest in politics become more serious, because every time an election came, I was looking around at the parties that were available in my area, my constituency, to vote for, and I just had to compromise on one. And sometimes you would and what I was having conversations with people, and I kept hearing, "Oh, it's tactical voting. We have to vote this party in to get that party out. It's tactical voting. It's for part of the bigger good." And I'm like, is it really though? Is it really? Because all we're voting one bad party in for another. And as I say, I shared a little bit on Saturdays that you got to the last elections and I just couldn't vote. I actually spoke to you before the voting took place and asking for some advice because I'm like, I've got a right to vote. I want to vote. But there was no family candidates in my area available for me to vote, and I just couldn't vote for any other one of the parties. So then the conversations started to began to, okay, well, if I don't have anybody in that area, then maybe I'm the person that needs to be in that area. But then the Hamilton Larkhall Stonehouse by-elections came up after the MSP sadly passed away, and decided that this was the opportunity to stand for truth, the opportunity to stand for this nation and actually be a party who can bring real changes to that is crying out for stability, that is crying out for truth, even when it disagrees with the truth or doesn't want to let. Inherently, the root problem is there's so much being built on half-truths, lies, propaganda, and ideologies that we need now more than ever. We need to hear truth, family values, people supporting life, not death, having good, honest debate and conversations, and just really getting to grips with the roots of the problems of this nation. So that's why we're here today. That's why we're having these conversations. And I truly believe it's part of maybe part of God's plan for the Scottish Family Party to be where we're at this time, to shake things up, but not just things up. As we shake things up to then bring stability in, as more people know about us, more people recognise, more people vote for us. So vote for Andy on June for the Hamilton Larkhall Stonehouse by-elections. But we can be and are a party that can be trusted. And I think that is few and far between as I look around the landscape of other political parties.
Yeah, oh, that's great. I've had the conversation with so many people. They say, oh, there's no one to vote for. And I say to them, right, vote for yourself next time. Be the candidate and vote for yourself. It's that you won't be able to do that because you're not quite in the constituency. But I've done that a few times. It's a bit of a strange experience. But there's a by-election coming up in my council ward soon, so I'll be able to vote for myself in that. Yes, so it's great to have you on board. And this by-election is obviously very sad, the circumstances of it. But it is, for you, I think it's an opportunity to come up at the right time. You wanted to step into this sort of role. Yeah, how did you find it on Saturday? We had a little launch event in Hamilton on Saturday, chatted to a few voters there. How did you find that?
Yeah, I actually found it really encouraging. I think maybe out of all the conversations, there wasn't a conversation I had with anybody that wasn't either they hadn't known about the Scottish Family Party beforehand, or in fact, a common thing was what you guys are standing for is what I think, but haven't been able to say. And just speaking to people that are just fed up. They're really just fed up. Really good and genuine people, just fed up with the way the nation are. And we actually conversation about what we're talking about, what we stand for. They're like, no, we agree with that. That seems like common sense. And if we could have more of that, it'd be great. And I'm like, well, you know that we're here now. You know that we're standing. Now you can vote. Even had one lady who had said that she actually tore up her ballot form and decided she wasn't going to vote for this by-election, and then decided after having a conversation she's now going to vote. I think so. That seemed to be kind of a running theme, is like either they weren't going to vote, they weren't happy with the parties, but now that they've heard of us, they're now going to vote and also speak to their friends. And like, never had a bad conversation. Those who maybe would disagree with what we stand for never took the time to have a conversation, which I'd have loved to do so. There was one lady, as I tried to offer a leaflet, says, "No, I hate everything you stand for. I talk completely against it." I'm like, okay, have a nice day. But I was like, I just hope you could stay for a second just to say, what exactly do you hate? What exactly are you against? Is it the champion of life? Is it supporting families? Is it against people dying needlessly early? Is it the common sense of men being men, women being women, and loving enough to tell them that truth? Like, what is it exactly you hate? But she never gave me that chance to have that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think generally, basically most people are nice, and they'll have a pleasant conversation with you. But it is interesting that our policies, when we explain policies to people, the reaction is generally very positive. And I think that's encouraging. I think a positive conversation doesn't necessarily mean a vote, but it can do. It can do in some cases, and I think it means that in the future, as the family party grows and gathers momentum, that the potential support is there. Can I just tell about one conversation I had? I'm not sure if I told you about this, Andy. There's a couple of young boys. They looked about 18 and 19, sitting eating a pie or something on a bench. So I went and said, are you voting in the election with the Scottish Family Party? It's not my usual spiel. And they just looked totally bored. I mean, they weren't rude, but their whole demeanor was, look, we can't be bothered with this. Can you just leave us alone? So I just tried the line. I said, right, we think people like you are crucial to the future of the nation. We want to make it so that you can, grow up, get married, have kids, buy a house, get a good job. And we want to make that possible for you. I agree. That's really crucial, because if that's not going to happen, then Scotland's going to fade away. We need you, people like you, entering into family life. If that's what you want, we want to really help you and make that possible. And like the lights came on a bit with them. It's like, oh, right, okay, yeah, okay. They weren't exactly wildly enthusiastic, but it did strike a chord with them. Yeah. And I was quite pleased. I wasn't sure I'd really tried that line with anyone on the street before, but it really seemed to connect with these two lads. They were university students. They said so. Yeah, that was interesting. Yes, that was a good day on the street. We put your little speech, which was excellent, on social media, but a couple of other people said some words as well. So let's just hear from a couple of other people who were at the launch event. So who we got? David Richardson.
Good morning. My name is David Richardson. I stood for the Scottish Family Party in the East Kilbride area during the general election, and I'm pleased to endorse and fully recommend my dear friend Andrew Brady, who is standing for the Scottish Family Party here in Hamilton. You have an excellent family man, a man who has experienced all kinds of heartbreak and healing in his life, and I can assure you this man does not compromise. You will be able to vote for Andrew Brady with a clear conscience. And if I was living in Hamilton, I certainly would be putting my cross next to his name. And I'm glad that Hamilton has an alternative to the nonsense that's going on in our political systems. The mainstream has failed the populace over and over again. It's embarrassing. But my word, you folks in Hamilton have a wonderful opportunity. You have a candidate, you can put your hand on your heart, you can vote for him, and you can be assured that he will stand for you. And he believes in the truth, and he believes in the truth with a lot of love in his heart. And we believe, Andrew and I, that once you embrace the truth will set you free. Vote for Andrew, vote for the Scottish Family Party. I thank you.
Right, fully agree with that. So John MacArthur said a few words as well.
Hello everyone, my name's John MacArthur. I stood in the Rutherglen district at the last election. I was unsuccessful, but the message still stands. I'm with our candidate in Hamilton, and I want to talk about something which is important around now. Reform did very well in the elections yesterday, but we must not be mistaken as being similar to Reform. We are called a right-wing party by others, as are Reform, but there is a very big difference between the Scottish Family Party and Reform. I have it here in this little document. We are a pro-life, an unapologetically pro-life party. We are pro-life, we are against abortion. We do not support assisted suicide. We are against euthanasia of any kind. We are a party that supports life, and that is a distinction between us and Reform. Please do not think that we are the same as Reform. Thank you.
Right, good point, good point. And one last one.
Wonder who this guy is.
There's two things you want to know before you vote for someone in an election. You need to know what they stand for and what sort of person they are. And we can assure you here in Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse, we've got a candidate with the right values and the right character. A great guy, Andy Brady, and is standing for the right things. The other parties, they tend to sway with the wind. Whatever the fashion is, they'll say what they think is going to get them elected. Whereas we are standing on timeless, vital principles. And if that's what you think matters in politics, then put your cross next to Andy Brady. Right, we'll put those on social media. Right, let's have a look at a few other things. There's Andy's leaflet that should be getting delivered to Royal Mail on Thursday. Then we'll go out to all the houses in the constituency. That's just the front page. I haven't bothered to put the back page on. You won't be able to read it. What else have we got? That was a nice photograph we took on Saturday. That's Jim. Yeah. Jim comes on along to our events. He's one of our stalwart supporters. He lives just nearby in Motherwell. Jim's virtually completely blind. He's got other health problems as well. But we really appreciate his support in helping Andy out there with that sign with a key message at the moment. So we'll come on to that a bit later in the live stream as well. Is there another picture as well? No, just the... Oh, right, yeah, one more thing. This is the other thing to mention to do with Andy's campaign. Right, 17th of May, Andy will be on the street in Larkhall, giving leaflets out. We might have a table there and some placards, meeting people on the street. And then in Stonehouse on the 24th of May. And then I think it's then Hamilton on the 31st of May. Isn't it? So if you want to join, come along and help in any of those, that would be great. You can see further details on social media. But there's three ways you can help Andy out. Andy will be going out leafleting on other occasions. And again, if you look on social media, you can see Andy's contact details. Andy Brady at Andy.Brady at scottishfamily.org. Do drop Andy an email if you can go along and head out. So tell me about your campaign. What are your big themes for the campaign?
I think it's so. What I find is I had a conversation this morning with a colleague, and we were speaking about all of the points like family values, like the need to fix education, no to assisted suicide, and ending trans ideology. And it's actually having a conversation that this isn't against like the trans ideology. This is not against trans people. We love trans people. We're against the thing that is confusing them. We're against the thing that's actually leading them to a place that will not make them happy, will not make them whole. Like this ideology that has infiltrated primary schools, it is not leading anyone to a better place. It's leading them to a place of harm. So that's what we're against. We're against people being harmed. This is not a hate for people. This is a love for people. And again, the assisted suicide, and what I keep hearing with this assisted suicide is, but what about my granny or my elderly mother who's at the end of life and like it's just her time to go? And I'm like, this is not what this is. This assisted suicide is going to kill a lot of people prematurely and early. From I think it's from 18 right upwards. If they've been given a terminal illness diagnosis, they'll be given to have assisted suicide, when time and time again must be, you can say, miraculously healed from terminal illnesses or live longer than they had been given. And like so, but this bill will end that chance from happening. It's not about ending the pain for your elderly relative. It's going to make vulnerable people in a very dangerous position. So because we love people, we don't want them to die early. We don't want them to die needlessly. So this is why we're against assisted suicide in the whole bill, because there's too much in it that can bring too much harm to other people. And I know a lot of There's a lot of good doctors out there who are now, who if this goes through, they're going to be put in really precarious positions because they both to help people, not to kill people. And I think that is widely been forgotten about. So yeah, and also for schools, it's like education is important. We truly value the role of teachers. So we say schools need fixed. This isn't, again, it's not having to go at teachers. I think teachers are actually struggling under a system that is piling pressure on them. So we really want to bring higher academic expectations, encouraging and leading the students into excellent behaviour, because I've been in classes where people are messing around and nobody's paying attention. Nobody benefits from that. But when you're in an environment where everybody wants to learn, everybody is championing each other to do well, everybody benefits from that as well. So, and if you teach the students to show respect to teachers, and that will carry on in their later in life. So you're actually nurturing young boys and girls to become good men and women, and getting the schools to work with parents, not working against them. And I truly believe that if we support families, the nation will prosper. Like growing up in the community in Rutherglen I was in, all the families looked out for each other. During the summer, you could come out, go in one neighbour's door and get your lunch, and go in another neighbour's door and get your dinner, and all the families looked after each other. And that seems to be widely missing now, because there's been so much pressure put on families for both parents to go and work, not enough to go around. Then just the dangers of society means doors have been shut. And so if we can actually support parents, help promote marriage, the population will benefit, the population will grow rather than be in decline. And I just believe there'll be healthier communities, which will lead to a healthier nation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're all about. Just say about assisted suicide. People will know the vote's coming up next Tuesday in Scotland. All of a sudden, it's been on the cards for going on 4 years. But what will happen in the Parliament? I'm not quite sure. I tend to think it will pass, but it might not. But whether it passes or not, let's imagine it does pass. Then the Scottish Family Party will have a policy of repealing that at the earliest opportunity. What will happen with the other parties is they'll say, "Oh well, water under the bridge. That's happened, and we'll think about the next thing that comes up." And that's the way things have been happening for decades and decades. And that's why, as you say, we're standing on principles, not swaying in the wind. So I think on this issue, our stance is very, very important. We'll have to see what happens.
There's such a lack of accountability. And that needs to stop.
Yeah. I think the other parties, with something like assisted suicide, their message is basically, voters just push off. We don't want your input on this. You just vote for us, and then when we're elected, we'll decide. It's not up to you on election day. It's up to us once you've elected us. That's what I'm just saying. Electorate, you're not going to have a say in this. We're going to decide this on our own. I would say, well, hang on a minute. No, that's not right. These are some of the most crucial questions facing the nation. So it's not okay to say, okay, we're leaving you out of this electorate. Just vote for us, and then we'll do what we feel like afterwards. So just while we're on that topic, so on Thursday next week, we're going to be at the Parliament between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. I actually think some of us will be there for outside those times, maybe between 10 and, later into the afternoon as well. But certainly 11 till 3, there'll be people there. So do come along. We're not going to have any, we might have some little speeches or whatever. We'll see. It's not a formal event. But a big part of the reason to be there is to be there with our great big placards, trying to get in photographs that will then be in the newspaper the next morning. We've had this before. They need a picture to go with the story. I mean, a picture of the Holyrood debating chamber, that's just a bit boring. We've all seen that before. But a picture of a family party activist holding a placard that says, for example, I like this one, love never says die, for example. That's quite a good one. Yeah, thanks, ChatGPT, for that one. So hopefully we'll get some attention and get in the media with those, as we have done before. And it'll be a nice afternoon altogether as well. Whoever comes along, we'll have a pleasant afternoon, have a chat, and nip into the Parliament Cafe for a drink, etc. So join us if you can. Right, Andy, that was fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed virtually meeting Andy Brady. Now, the next thing you do is meet him for real. Come along and help him in his campaign. Donate to his campaign as well. There's a crowdfunder. In fact, I'll put the link in there right away. The crowdfunder is open all the way through the campaign. So these things are normally a slow burner through an election campaign. So there's the link. So all contributions gratefully received to that. And yeah, so Andy, best wishes, and we'll see you again soon.
See you guys soon. Just before I go,
yep.
If you do stay in the Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse area, please vote Andy Brady on June the 5th. You'll be able to do it with a clear conscience. God bless.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andy. Good night. All right, Andy's got to go to work now, so he's off to the night shift. But we've got lots more to talk about, and we've got 2 more guests. So I'm going to bring our guests on. Evening, Gareth. Caught him by surprise.
Yes.
And
I was putting
Ewan.
the paper down.
Ewan's as well. So Ewan is our North East chairman. Gareth is a deputy chairman of the Scottish Family Party. There's about familiar faces on this live stream. So welcome this evening.
Good to be here.
Good evening. Good to be here.
Now, Ewan and Gareth have both got particular topics to talk about. But before we go on to those, let's just have a look what I've got in my slides here. Right, meetings. We've got meetings all over the place. Stirling tomorrow night. DSA, details on social media. I think it's 7 o'clock in the Cross Peels, the Wetherspoons in Stirling. Scottish Parliament, I've talked about that. Irvine, that's just a meeting in the evening. It'll be in the Wetherspoons. Lockhall, that's a stall in the afternoon. Leafleting in the afternoon. Glasgow, that's George Square, again in the Wetherspoons. We go to Wetherspoons because they never cancel us, by the way. We haven't got an agreement with them. It's just they never cancel on us. Glasgow, George Square, 21st. Up in Perth, 22nd of May. Stonehouse, that's a stall in the street. Livingston, that's a Wetherspoons. Falkirk, that's a Wetherspoons. And Edinburgh, 26th of June, that's a Wetherspoons as well. More events will pop up in June within the next couple of weeks, but we've just got May planned. Right, let me go to the beginning, what we've got here. Right, I made my little video about Anna Sawa and his, those speaking about Pakistanis. It's got quite a lot of views, that video. My point was basically, I don't think he's a Muslim colonist, as GB News suggested, but I do think he's got an unhealthy, divided loyalty. And basically, he's a multiculturalist. He wants Pakistanis to be treated as a different group than the rest of society. And his political ambition was based on bringing people from that group into positions of power, which didn't go down very well with a lot of people. But right now, this is the thing I wanted to get to here. Right, so Gareth and Ewan, have a listen to John Swinney at Pope Francis's funeral. Here we go.
Experience being in St. Peter's Square for the funeral of Pope Francis. I feel enormously privileged to have had the opportunity to bring the respect and the admiration of the people of Scotland to Rome to pay tribute to Pope Francis. Pope Francis set an extraordinary example in his leadership of the Catholic Church. He made sure that the Church remained faithful to the Word of God and the teachings of Jesus. But he also made sure the Catholic Church addressed the realities of life today, particularly the pursuit of justice, particularly support for the poor. I was baptized a Protestant, but I worship in the Catholic Church with my wife and my son. My wife and my son are Catholics. I am not a member of the Catholic Church. But what for me matters is the deep anchoring of faith in my life. It makes me who I am. It connects me with the love of God, and it also connects me with the important teachings of doing unto others as I would have done unto me. That drives my whole approach to life, and it drives the political leadership and the national leadership that I exercise as First Minister of Scotland.
Right. Any thoughts, Gareth? What did you make of that?
Wow. I would not ever have thought I would have heard that. That's hard to balance, I think. But yeah, that's pretty well. Yeah.
He's said this sort of thing before, occasionally, not very often, but he's laid it on quite thick with the Christian side.
Yeah, he's definitely so yeah, I don't know how, you know, that's unusual for him. No, you know, normally it's process, you know what I mean? He just avoids any sort of committal thing there, but that's pretty committal, quite a bit of a risk.
Well, is it risky? What is he committing to? I think being a Christian isn't controversial. No one's got a problem with that. When you start believing the wrong things as part of your Christian faith, that it becomes tricky, I think.
Yeah, but if like, yeah. Well, Ewan, what do you think? What do you think?
Well, I would say, you know, it's typical John Swinney of, you know, saying one thing and then just completely missing the mark with everything you actually do. You know, it's all great for him to say, oh, I'm a baptized Christian and I go to the church and all this. And then on the other hand, he's very willing to vote to kill unborn children. Now, the Catholic Church has been very clear on issues such as that. And I mean, his sex education materials as well. He's very happy to promote those, and he's very proud of his achievements in corrupting children. So, you know, I think it's very hypocritical.
Yeah. The thing that worries me is I worry that maybe Catholics in particular might see that clip and think, oh, he's been really respectful to the church and to the Pope, so he must be a good guy. I'll maybe vote SNP next time. And that's what John Swinney is trying to do, isn't it? He's trying to ingratiate himself with the with Catholics, well, Christians in general, Catholics in particular, with what he's saying. I've made this helpful table. I made this earlier on today. Maybe I should send it to John Swinney. It goes through various things. Are they morally acceptable? And it compares the Catholic Church's teaching with the SNP's policies or sex education resources. So, is pornography morally acceptable? Catholic Church says no. SNP says yes in its sex education resources. Premarital sex. Catholic Church says no. SNP says yes in its sex education resources. Abortion. Catholic Church teaching no. SNP teaching yes. Contraception. Catholic Church teaching no. SNP sex education lessons yes. Just to say on contraception, I've said this before to Catholics. I say, if I was a Catholic, why are Catholics not coming out and saying, for goodness sake, we told you so? The population's plummeting. Why do you think that is? Might it be because you ignored our teaching on contraception? I'm not a Catholic, by the way, and I don't share the Catholic view on contraception, I don't think. But surely they should have quite a striking case to make there in terms of demographic decline. Anyway, same-sex parenting, changing gender, surrogacy, egg donation, sperm donation. The Scottish government's working hard to basically pay young people to donate sperm and eggs and other people to use them. Homosexual sex, and the last one, eugenics as well. The Scottish government's quite happy with the practice of eugenics in the NHS, basically. So, I mean, how Johnny... so here's a question for you. If John Swinney was on the live stream now, I said, hello, John. It's lovely to have you. Thanks for coming on. How would you respond to that? How would you square you saying that you really appreciate the teaching of the Word of God, etc.? How do you square that with the SNP's policy? What would he say? What do you think he'd say? Ewan, what do you think?
Well, I think he would go and ah, and he would and ah for a good bit, and then he'd probably say something along the lines of, well, I mean, I've got a deep connection to my personal faith, and that's how I've arrived at the positions, and I think the SNP represents that deep personal faith, and he would go on something like that, I think he would just completely dodge it and just go on about his faith.
You would have to say that Christianity is for personal use only and not for policy, which I obviously think is wrong.
I think you're right. I think he would try and say that. Yeah.
To try and say it's okay to do one thing in private and do something else in public.
Did you notice what he said in the when he was speaking? He explained, obviously, didn't he, that he's not a Catholic himself, but he goes to a Catholic church. He spoke about as though there was a tension. He said what the Pope did that was very positive was he held up the church's teaching, but he also managed to be relevant to the modern time and be compassionate and whatever, as though these things are in tension with each other. So I'll play that again. Let me get that again. Where's it gone? Is that it? Yeah. This is again.
Incredibly moving experience being in St. Peter's Square for the funeral of Pope Francis. I feel enormously privileged to have had the opportunity to bring the respect and the admiration of the people of Scotland to Rome to pay tribute to Pope Francis. Pope Francis set an extraordinary example in his leadership of the Catholic Church. He made sure that the Church remained faithful to the Word of God and the teachings of Jesus. But he also made sure the Catholic Church addressed the realities of life today, particularly the pursuit of justice, particularly support for the poor. I was back.
You see what I mean? It's as though we're saying that there's a tension. If all the Pope had done was uphold the teaching of the Catholic Church, obviously that wouldn't have been, that would only have been half the story, because he needed to show concern for the poor, etc. As though these things are not part of the teaching of the Catholic Church. It just doesn't get. So he's saying, he upholds the Christian truth, the Catholic teachings, but he's also a good guy. Who really tries to do the right thing, as though these are two separate things.
The teachings of Jesus and the pursuit of truth, pursuit of justice are different.
So anyway, so that was John Swinney. So John Swinney, was it right that he went to the Pope's funeral? I think it is right that international leaders go to the Pope's funeral, but I think it's also right that they should be challenged as we are doing now. Now, did I have something else on that story, or was that it? Just one more thing on Pope Francis. Sorry. This was something I put on social media a while ago. I just stumbled across it today. This is a quote. It's basically like from the office of Pope Francis. So it's not actually a direct quote from him, but it was a comment endorsed by him, sent on his behalf, if you like. The Holy Father greatly appreciates the dedicated work that 40 Days for Life are engaged in to promote respect for the lives of unborn children. 40 Days for Life, who are behind the organisation of the pro-life vigils in Edinburgh and Glasgow in Scotland. So Pope Francis sends a message of support to 40 Days for Life. And what does John Swinney do? Votes for them to be arrested.
And similar to your the line that you can see, like how does Swinney feel when you walked up that line? You showed that in the video in the last Tuesday, right? At the last show when everyone was antagonizing you, and how would he respond to that?
I think he would keep his cool completely. I'm sure he would. So my little table there, I could have added to it, couldn't I? I could add another line of your pro-life vigils at abortion clinics. Catholic Church, yes, it's a good thing. John Swinney, lock them up. Right, let's have a quick. So right, Bruce. Right, Richard, let's not pretend the teaching of the Catholic Church are compatible with modern day society. Absolutely, because modern day society is wrong in some ways. I'm not claiming that they're. I guess you don't mean compatible. I guess you mean that they're inappropriate or inapplicable or unsuitable in some way to modern day society, which I would disagree with entirely. Right. How many abusers escape legal retribution because of Catholic teachings on reconciliation? I haven't thought about that question, but I don't think that the heart of Christian teaching is in any way responsible for overlooking sexual abuse.
Yeah,
let's put it that way. That's an interesting question. I'll go away and think about that one. I can see what you're saying, Bruce.
If I might just add to the issue, on kind of sexual abuse in the past within churches, one of the things that's quite interesting to think about is it that sexual abusers are sexual abusers because they're Christian, or that they have worked into these positions of power because it gives them access to the vulnerable. And that's kind of a thing, because you see it in any place where people work with the vulnerable and work with children, is you see these cases of abuse. And so something to think about, is it the other way around, that the abusers are looking for a way to get in? So
I think safeguarding's come a long way, and people recognizing, hey, we can't have, we need to do checks and double checks, and so I think that culture of doing the safeguarding has been developed over time. So yeah, it's a very good call out. But yeah, it's interesting thinking how I wouldn't say that retribution, the forgiveness one gets from believing, from Christian or Catholic, whatever, doesn't mean that you are not responsible, or that you don't have the same consequences. You still go through the consequences. People don't just go, oh, I'm now forgiven of Jesus and don't have to go to jail for killing somebody. They might very well have received that forgiveness in terms of their peace with themselves, but they will gladly still fulfill their sentence. So I'd like to think that doesn't happen in, like if something's happened in the Catholic Church, did it have the ability to go beyond the law? I wouldn't have thought so.
No, I think I think things have changed a lot with child protection. At the school I used to work at, there was a music teacher apparently who was caught. Well, let's not bother going into details, but he was caught behaving extremely inappropriately, with a girl pupil in a music practice room. And so he was fired, basically. But I don't think they actually fired him. It was all covered up. And he left quietly. And then he just went and got a job in another school. So then that was the culture years ago. You covered it up, you wrote them a reference, and then they weren't your problem anymore. And let them go somewhere else. But, that's not our problem. But I think that culture is now well and truly dead.
The parents
cannot do that.
They wouldn't accept that now, I don't think.
No, absolutely not. Times have changed.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a little bit on that story from John Swinney. Now let's go to Ewan. Let's go to your story, Ewan. So just on the assisted suicide, before we get to it, have I got a slide or two on the topic? Oh yeah, I've just got this one. I did this before the 2021 Scottish election, just as a bit of fun. It was a disclaimer for anyone who was going to vote SNP. So you have to sign it if you're going to vote SNP. That was just a joke, really. So in voting SNP, I'm fully aware that I'm expressing support for the killing of unborn children, the endorsement of pornography to school children, the deliberate creation of fatherless children, the banning of counselling for those experiencing unwanted homosexual attraction, and openness to introducing assisted suicide. Because the SNP has been making these noises for a long time. We'll make space for it in the Parliament. We think there should be a discussion. Promotion of dangerous transgender ideology in schools. I understand that the existence of some nice people in the SNP does not change any of the above facts. In signing this document, I hereby forfeit any and every right to object to any of the above until May 2026, which is the next election. Then people are supposed to sign it. So you get the idea, just a way of challenging people. And I'm just interested, one of the things on there is an openness to introducing assisted suicide. Because it's as though like people who are pro-life, they sort of play roulette. You vote for any old parties, and then you really hope that things work out okay. You really hope that they're going to vote against assisted suicide. And it's like gambling. Vote in any random bunch and then hope they're going to vote the right way. But we obviously say vote for the right people, and then you know the way they're going to vote. So anyway, Ewan, tell us about what you've been finding about Liam MacArthur.
So I remember a while back reading an article about Liam MacArthur. I think it was in the Daily Record, and it was about the fact that he had received quite a lot of money from various lobbyists to promote his bill, and it's quite an amount. So let's take a look. I'm going to see. So first of all, he had so for the bill he's just written, he had a full-time staff member paid for by three different groups. The first of those was Friends at the End, which is a Scottish charity working to promote assisted suicide based in Edinburgh. Dignity in Dying, which I think is a London-based charity supporting assisted suicide. And then the Humanist Society, which is a religious group who have been funding him. In total, between them, it was about £54,000 that they gave to MacArthur. It was about £18,000 from each group and £18,000 from the Humanists. On top of that, he also has received a free website from the Humanists. They've upkept his website for him. It's assisteddying.scot, I think. And basically, they've paid all the hosting fees. They pay the management. They pay for someone to keep it up to date and to pay all the relevant fees relating to hosting that website and managing all the emails and things for that. Another thing that he's received is he received about £3,000 from Dignity in Dying for a holiday to California to go and see what assisted suicide looks like in California. And so that was about $3,000 he got given to pay for that. That was last year.
Right. I was fascinated to hear this. I wouldn't have imagined that this sort of interaction between campaigning groups and MSPs went on. I'm just really surprised. What's your reaction, Gareth? What's your gut feeling to that? Did you listen to this and think, oh yeah, that sounds fine. That's how things should work.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, how. So obviously it needs to get registered. So is it only charities? What if companies who, the guys who giving the drugs for the that'll be used to kill people, could they sponsor as well? What are the conditions? It feels a bit like if you've got a political agenda and this benefits you, you can just go and persuade one of the MSPs to write a bill and then fund them. Is that not corrupt in some way?
I'm trying to imagine what would happen if there was a group, like we said, the Humanists, a religious group. If you did have like a coalition of Christian groups, and maybe a Muslim group or two or whatever, who were backing an MSP to bring forward some sort of traditional values bill, what would people? Surely there'd be outcry at that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it. The Daily Record had reported that the Dignity in Dying, they get their money from some quite shady kind of transfers. They've got, so basically this group, Dignity in Dying, they have a parent group called Compassion in Dying, and they received about £300,000 from a group called Church Street Trustees, which is a firm registered in Jersey and was in the Panama Papers. And they were saying that basically this company is linked to a lot of big American pharmaceutical companies like Novocure and Volati. And so there's a few companies there. So there are definitely questions about where has the money come from for Dignity in Dying to be funneling it through, especially if there's all this money from lobbyists. Is this a case of an MSP kind of getting around this by, kind of putting it through various different stages? It's a question to be asked. Not that I'm accusing them of anything.
What this is reminding me of is another thing with the Lib Dems, actually, is people said that they got funding from the people who make puberty blocker drugs. They were getting funded by them while they were at the forefront of promoting all the trans ideology as well. Now, again, but the big story, of course, in Scottish politics is how's the family party funded? What shady things are going on there? And yet all these things, I mean, they have been reported in the media, you're saying, but yes. Yeah, so go back to if it was, say, a group of Christian charities and maybe a couple of a Muslim charity or something, and they all got together and they supported, John Mason to bring forward a bill, a pro-life bill in one form or another. There would be outcry, and surely people would be saying that you can't have religious groups organizing it, that are getting involved here. There's religious groups exerting influence. The humanists would be going bonkers.
Yeah, well, ironically,
how could this be allowed?
It would be the humanists that would be making the loudest racket, even though they're the ones funding assisted suicide bills. I mean, they would be the first ones campaigning to remove Christo-fascists from politics, or whatever they would call it.
So is it a double standard?
The family,
or is it just? Sorry. So is it a double standard, or is it just that there's no possibility of any MSP or bringing forward a bill that would be in line with some traditional moral values? Is that the reason why we don't see this? Or do those organizations, they just haven't got this sort of money?
Right, I got you. Yeah. So in other words, because it's a morally wrong thing to do, we're not seeing it. In terms of you don't think Christian lobby groups saying, "Hey, who can we fund to help bring forward?"
There's that aspect as well. Or would they do it if they could find some MSPs to fund?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is they wouldn't they would probably have moral issues doing it in the first place, let alone.
Yeah. It's very interesting, though. As I say, I was quite surprised to hear that. All right, let's have a look at that. Got another comment from Bruce here. I actually quite admire Alex Cole Hamilton, but the Lib Dems as a whole just aren't a serious party. Political posture is the highest order. They share that in common with the SFP, Scottish Family Party. That must have been a typo, I think. It's an N. It's N for SNP, not an F in the middle. So just slow down, Bruce, and then you won't make typos like that. Again, that would be that'd be really good. What's the early part of Double Speed? Just wondering, how old is Andy Brady? I don't know. Let's have a competition. I honestly don't know. My wife asked me that, and I didn't know. So guess is in the live stream, and we'll have a prize next week. Guess is in the comments. Fire them in. I'll go for. All right, I was a bit scared to do this. 38. Gareth, what would you go for?
Oh, my first thought was 42, and I was like, no, 37. He's 37 and a half. And then you said 38, so I'm probably going to go for 38 as well. I'll second you. Chicken.
I was going to go low. I was going to say 34. I thought he struck me as younger.
Yeah, it's difficult to age, isn't he? 40, 36. Flattery. Well, maybe there was. Maybe I did err on the side of caution a little bit. Mr. Mellon says 35. Yeah, we're somewhere around there. We should below 80. Well, that's right. You're really sticking your neck out there, aren't you, Mary? That's a pretty radical guess there. Right. So yeah, that's really interesting to hear about that. And as I say, I'm sure there's a double standard in terms of commentary and media reporting. Because if these were Christian groups or Muslim groups or whatever funding an MSP for a bill, there would be total outrage. And I'm surprised. Well, it's amazing how much money these groups have got. And I'm surprised that they're allowed to use that to actually have someone writing a bill. Is that not what civil servants are for in the parliament? And if you're an MSP writing a bill, surely you get civil servants to support you with that. So yeah, very surprised. Now, that's very interesting. So Ewan, thanks for finding that. Right, it's time for our little 5-minute rant to finish off the show. So we haven't got that long left, but we can get through. Right, Gareth, go for it.
Right. So I'll start off with a quick story just to kind of bring it together. We were down on holiday in this isn't the first time. I've had this before, but it kind of like wraps it up. I was on holiday in Keswick down south. and was standing at the parking machine where you had to punch in your numbers. And there's a little lady in front of me, and she was struggling to figure out the interface and figure it out, and it was a bit complex. And she had finally managed to kind of get her details in, and it said you're 7 minutes overdue your parking limits. You are liable for £100 fine. And she was absolutely distraught. She was just like, what, with shock in her face. And I was like, that's, and the company, I'm happy to label the company as Parking Eye. I've seen them in Edinburgh and all different places. And it's something where the other funny part about that was by the time I got to put in my details, I was now 5 minutes over as well. So I was like, this is ridiculous. So I got really annoyed. But so I've been fined by them before. What it is, and I'll give you the summary, and then if you have the slide, do you have the slide or not? You might not have.
They have the what? Sorry,
the slide. Do you have the?
No, I don't. Sorry, no. Sorry,
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. I'll just summarize it. So what it is Parking Eye is a company where instead of having booms, what they do is they put cameras, and they put up signage, and some signage is good, some signage is okay, and some signage is just rubbish. But they put up signage. So in other words, you just rock up, you park there, you do your shopping, and you don't know if it's paid or not paid. But when you leave, a month or two later, or a week or two later, you just get this: hey, you were there, you didn't pay for your parking, please pay. So in this case, it was like the Marriott Hotel. If you go there, and it's not obvious, there's these little boards which look like the long disclaimers. Don't leave your kids in the car, and don't leave your shopping in the car, and we accept no liability, and there's like a 600 word little disclaimer thing there. That's what it looks like. But actually what it's saying is you have to go find some machine somewhere inside and punch in your details, and then you won't get a fine. So I really so what these fines aren't actually statutory fines. They're meant to be like breach of contract fines, and this is meant to be them claiming damages on lost property that somebody else could have been lost revenue, according to ChatGPT. That's technically what this fine's meant to be. So so these companies are coming, and so I looked up the financials of Parking Eye, and they're making surprisingly a lot of money. So what they do is they buy the property, the actual parking lot, so it's them, and then Marriott doesn't get into trouble. It doesn't say, oh, it's me. They just say it's them, and it makes it private ground. And then they're making, I don't have 2024, but 2023 their turnover was 57 million pounds. And they've made an increase of 16.7%. So in other words, another 4.7 million increased profit. And I don't think it is from people like you can't make that kind of increase through new business. I think it's through being fined, and people being fined extortionate amounts of money, £100 regularly. It took me a long time to eventually get the claims rejected or eventually appealed.
Yeah, I think it's an unsavory business model, isn't it? Because they're basically profiting from fines. So it's not in their interest for people to follow the rules. It's in their interest for people not to follow them. Now, for the company who own, it's their car park. Okay, fair enough if they want to impose some sort of rules. But then if they delegate that to someone who makes money out of catching people out, then the motivation is not that. Because normally, if you've got a hotel and a car park, then okay, you put a barrier on it, whatever. But it's in the hotel's interest to treat their customers well.
Yeah.
So you can have a system where you don't let people pay, you make people pay if they're not customers of the hotel or whatever. But your own customers, you really want to treat them. I had one. It's a family party event in Aberdeen. It was in a hotel. I drove in, it was dark night, pouring with rain. Drove in, parked, had the event, went home. A week later, got a fine for £100.
That's exactly what I did. To nighttime, couldn't see a sign.
Yeah, I've had a couple. I've never paid them. I've always got in touch, and they've withdrawn them. But it's just this, it doesn't exactly boost your day having to do those things. So I think there's a problem in it. as I say, it's a company that should be offering a service. Same for a shopping centre. They're offering a service to their customers, okay, who come and park there. But as soon as it's handed over to this company, the idea of that you're trying to maintain a relationship and looking after customers, that goes completely out of the window. Now, I've heard, this is not legal advice, don't blame me, but I've heard from people, basically, if you just don't pay these things, nothing happens. And the best thing to, I've heard, the best thing to do is that don't even reply to the first one. Just totally ignore everything that comes, and eventually they go away. I've heard, but I'm not advising that, but that's apparently what happens in some cases, if not all cases, with some of these.
So with me, they actually sent debt collectors, and it was a horrendous experience. So yeah, one thing to bear in mind, and I think for me the rule needs to be you have to have a boom because it's meant to be a contract. I think you have to have a boom on entrance, and you can't let somebody leave without the ticket. So you can't forget to pay. You know that can easily happen distressing days. And the other thing is I found out is that the there's meant to be a guidance by the BPA. Do you know the Private Parking Association?
I'm not familiar with them actually, but
they're meant to be governed by. It'll say regulated by. These guys were meant to have issued guidance on what the fines are meant to be, and that's been delayed heavily. And I'm just like at a 54 million a year. It's pretty hard, like for me to imagine that there isn't some kind of persuasion to prevent that guidance from coming out. So I really think that we need to put pressure on getting that guidance out, and even better yet, putting the booms in and enforcing a contract.
Yeah.
So there's no contract, as far as I'm concerned.
At the very least, I had one once where I drove to a hotel. I wanted to see the hotel, so I drove in, parked on their car park, went in for a cup of tea, had a little look around, drove away again. Then a week later, got a fine for, I don't know, £60 or something. I think in that case, it can't let you off the car park if you haven't done the thing. These one, like say, you have to put your number in. It can't send you a fine later. You've got to get to a barrier. There's a hassle then, but it tells you you've got to put your token in that you get from reception or something, and then you go back and get it.
Yeah,
that's okay. To just send, I think it's wrong just to like punish people for making mistakes. That basically because your signage probably was not adequate, and that's in addition to like the customer service aspect. So I think you could have a law banning that.
I think
you can't have a system that just relies on fines.
If you try and appeal it, there's the one system to appeal it, right? And once you've entered that system, it is gone, and there is no way of contacting them. Eventually, I managed to get contact details, to email them directly. Contact details from the because somebody, the debt collectors CC'd me in an email with one of these guys on it. So I eventually got them. It got to a point where they were like, "Stop, we're not talking to you anymore." And then the other guys were like, "We're not talking to you anymore." And it was just ridiculous. But yeah, it is as far as I can see, this is a business model. It's making a lot of money. You can see that in the finances, and it is wrong. It is wrong. It is not based. There's no way that you can be claiming £100 lost revenue for me parking there for 1 hour. You can see exactly how long I was there. I wasn't there for a week.
5 minutes extra in the McDonald's car park. Just
waiting for somebody to put in their number. I'm sorry. That is just. I'm sorry. Yeah. So it is. I think it's causing a lot of distress, and I think it deserves a campaign, and it deserves some kind of policy and.
What you need to do, Gareth, go to the Scottish Family Party Policy Forum on Facebook and write to them. We haven't had a policy review for a while. I think we'll have a policy review after the summer in preparation for the 2020 Scottish election. The way this works, for those of you who are not members, is we have a secret Facebook group that's only for members and regular donors of the party, and you're invited to join that. And then sometimes we have a phase where people propose new policies. We talk about them in the Facebook group. I talk about them in local meetings around the country as well. And then we formalize it and agree it into a new policy document. So I think we'll go through one of those processes after the summer. So if you want to be involved in that, then it's time to join. So Ewan, have you got any parting shot about these parking companies? Have you ever fallen victim to them?
Well, I didn't fall victim, although I had to pay a ridiculous fee. It was in Aberdeen. I was waiting to pick up somebody. They'd just got in and they were getting off the bus, and I had to pay £5 because I was waiting. And then I realised I'm in one of these ANPR places. I'd seen the tiny little sign in the corner that says if you leave, we'll fine. It's probably the same company as you guys, but if you leave, you're £100 fine. So I ended up paying £5 for like 20 minutes parking. Just ridiculous. But I think it should be a case where you've got either like, you know, a little box as you go in, even if it's not a barrier, just a box with a big stop sign that says stop, pay here, or get your ticket here before you go in. I think it should be clear as day.
I'll tell you another thing I'm not happy with. I'm not happy with these private companies being able to go to the government and say, here's a registration number, give me the name and address.
Yeah, that's
How's
actually
that happening?
good. That's so cool. Yeah, you can actually get that online anyway, it seems.
No, you can't. Well, not easily in any case.
Oh no, that's not
you
true.
can get the
Yeah,
MOT and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, you get the MOT. You're right, actually. That's a really
You
good
can't get the
question.
name and address.
That's a very
probably in the small print. At the bottom of the small print, in the sign in the car park, it will say, in parking here, you agree to us accessing your personal data from the government's, DVLA database or whatever.
Yeah, but hang on. I'm sorry, but that's too late, right? So what you have to have had that sign before somebody went in. You have to say at this point, and then boom, to say we're going to access your data at this point, and so I can choose to say no.
But you can't. If they're going to do that, they need to stop you at the barrier, and they need to make you watch a video.
Yeah, and consent. Yeah, there's no contract, no agreement.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I guess that's where some of the money's going in as well. Like it's really. I think that's a definite breach of person. Yeah, great point, Richard.
Right, so we're going to get this sorted out. Family party.
Boom.
And you can stay in the McDonald's car park as long as you like. Almost. Okay, right. Thanks for watching, everyone. Do join us next week. Look at all the events coming up as well. I help out Andy Brady in his campaign. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Gareth. Thanks, you. See you all next week.
Great time. Thank you.